everything is pointing to our actual like well-being, our wholeness, our wholeheartedness, all of these things. So basically, if you just remove shame, everything is working for you.
Did you know that your dreams will always require your healing? It's true, and that could be why you freeze or shut down whenever you try to move towards your own brilliant creativity. This podcast exists to show you exactly why that is and how to move towards creating the things that only you can. So let's go. I'm Courtney Lancaster, and this is the Heal Create Podcast. Welcome to the Heal Create Podcast. I have someone that I love, that so many people love, and who I've been so excited to have this conversation with. Welcome, JP.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, tell me. Gentile?
It's a riddle. So,
it is a riddle.
Yes.
It's Gentile. It's for sure Gentile, right?
It's written Gentile. It was originally Gentile. They came here and changed it to Gentiles, get some work. I always was referred to Gentile because my dad and my uncle were twins, and they wanted to have different pronunciations to be separate. So we took the Gentile, they took the Gentile, and then I turned like 30, and I was like, after preserving the Gentile for so long, my dad's like, yeah, I made it up. It was like, it was on its way to Gentile, but I just stopped halfway. So yes, Gentile, none of it matters anymore.
JP Gentile. So basically, I met JP when we lived in Reading. And for any of you who have seen or listened to any music that's come out of Reading and out of the kind of the worship movement and like circa 2013, 12 to like ongoing, you probably know who this guy is. You've seen him on YouTube videos. You've heard him in the background of your worship streams. So that was my first introduction to you. But then I met you, and the very first thing I heard you talk about was how you talked about like unresolved pain and how that can get in the way of creativity, which is everything that I stand for and everything that I love. And I think immediately I was like, oh my gosh, we should talk. So we bonded over trauma, which is different than trauma bonding.
Hey, yes,
I was immediately like, we have to talk. I wanted to interview you because I know that you work with songwriters and creatives, and sometimes people that are really have a really big platform, and you're working also with beginning creatives and beginning songwriters and musicians. And I want to talk about what you've noticed working with people just kind of all over the spectrum as far as talent levels and passion levels and all of that. Before I do that, can you tell me a little bit about your background and how you found yourself really in the middle of music and creativity as a life calling?
That's a great question. Well, I started playing because my mom was, just the classic route, just get piano lessons when you're 7. So I've always been in music as like a part of what we do. But it wasn't until I was in high school, my aunt got killed in a hit and run. And I went and wrote a song. And then my cousin went and wrote another song, both about our aunt. And I wrote this really moody, broody song, and he wrote this like really like up-tempo song. And it just hit me. I'm like, wait, why are you writing this? And he goes, well, we're going to celebrate her. She's gone. So let's actually, if we're going to have a song, if we're going to sing something while she's not here anymore, let it be something that celebrates life. So
wow, yeah.
I was like, sure. So we finished the song. We put it on a CD, handed it to my dad because they finally found the guy. He was like hiding out in a grocery store for a couple of days. So they finally find him. This is like, maybe a couple of weeks later, they're at the trial, and the guy's, not saying anything. Then finally my dad hands the judge the CD. He plays the song.
Stop
and
it.
The guy confesses.
Stop.
And so that was my first experience of writing a song. And me and my cousin, we were like, all right.
What? That's crazy.
Yeah.
If that is not a very loud invitation into the power of songwriting, I don't know what is.
Totally. And literally started a band from that song.
What? That's crazy.
Yeah. So after that, it was like, oh, I'm going to do this forever. Like music.
How could you not?
Yeah. Like music just like it has a pop moment and it just pops this, stagnancy or just this mechanical way of doing things. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, you pop into like the wonder and the beauty and the awe, whether it's heart wrenching or whether it's uplifting. So music for me was kind of the way that I make sense of what happens around me. And to this day, it's still, I make music because I have to, just like I have to eat,
right. Like
it's
you can't
therapy.
Not do it. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
The first song that you wrote, this going back to your original story, was more of like an expressive, emotional song, it sounds like. Right. And what do you think about that? I feel like that song has a place too. Those expressions have a place as well. And so when you're working with people, I feel very aware of like what I put out into the world and wanting it to be encouraging and hopeful. And at the same time, what honestly comes out of me and my creativity is not always encouraging and hopeful, but more of an expression of what I'm going through. And then I feel so much lighter when I write it. Do you find the place for both?
Yeah, well, I think our consumption has increased in the way that we view time. So we lose the nuance and rhythm of what it is to live life. When we read something about somebody, we read like their whole life like so fast. So I say that because we have a hard time sitting in the, this is how I feel right now. We read people's stories. Anybody, what I mean? We have the full breath. So we're like, yeah, we forget that there was like years and years and years.
Totally.
And for ourselves, I find that that's something that we just need to do a better job at. Long suffering and the full story. And having, something forged in you. I say all this because a song is needed for every day. You don't pick the song that's most appropriate and then spend your whole life working towards writing that. Like you write every day down. And the songs are what capture eternity. And so you can have these timeless moments. This pocket that you get to just toss up into like the atmosphere. And wherever it drops, someone can open it up. And now it's the first time for them. Yeah, totally. And that gets to be a part of their life. So anyway, yes, both, always both, always both. There's never not been,
I think that you're totally right. Like when you're watching a movie, you don't just watch the good parts. A great story. You're not just like watching the end or watching the celebratory parts. You're watching. It's every expression, every moment that makes a story so beautiful because you see the lows and you see the highs. So yeah, great point.
Yeah, it's tension and release. That's what we're attracted to. Yeah. I mean, EDM would be nothing without the drop.
Oh my gosh, I know.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we want like 10 of them in one song.
Yeah.
Like this is how we're wired.
Totally.
Like, yeah, without tension, like somebody likes those Hallmark movies, but it feels so surfacey because the tension isn't great. Right? There's so much resolution so fast. Yeah. So like this lack of tension is what really like robs the ability to be forever grateful.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so you went from recognizing like I can't not do this. This is what I'm here to do. How did you move into working with creatives? Was it kind of an organic journey into that, or was it like a decision that you decided I want to do this?
I mean, I have to work with myself every day. So it's kind of like
amen to that. Yeah. No better training ground than that. Yeah, for sure.
So I grew up wrestling. So you learn people so fast when you get to wrestle them as opposed to like sit and talk with them. And with making music, like you learn people so much faster. But just like in fight, like you don't get to choose what to show them. You know what I mean? It's like it's all based on the moment and your reaction to it. Yeah. So I got such an incredible opportunity to be able to be around a bunch of people that were basically mirroring my insides. We're all just trying to walk each other back home. That's all it is. When you let go of all this false urgency, you're like, what a beautiful life.
Yeah.
I got time. I got space.
See, I'm
Yes.
showing him the sweatshirt I'm wearing, which says "You're
Yes.
going to have the most beautiful life," which is a song I wrote. 'Cause
Yes. Let's go.
I know it sounds simplified, but that was really the conclusion that I came to after I went through my own healing journey with anxiety and depression. Was like when I lifted out of that with a lot of support, I kept seeing people and feeling like this, like the only urgency I had was to tell them, you're going to have the most beautiful life.
Right.
Like there's so much more. There's so much here. And I couldn't not tell people that. So yeah. So it sounds like that lack of like, or I should say maybe that urgency, that rushing, that like self-involved looking inside by yourself is really taking away from the truth of the fact that there's beauty here now. And so you learned that wrestling with and walking through life with other creatives. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You learn so much about the inexpressible things, or, you know, the things without a normal language that music has to offer. And so you can go into really, really deep places, really, really petty places, everything in between. I love it. Yeah. It's been an absolute gift. Because with that also comes kind of typical blind spots, you know?
Totally.
So when you're with a bunch of creatives and everybody's experiencing the same blind spot, you know, now working with creatives is like, I truly believe in like the Renaissance, and that
I've heard you say that before.
Yeah. Like I have nothing to lose, so I have everything to give away. If I have nothing to lose, when I went to Africa, I got absolutely rocked, and I saw this is the one thing nobody can steal from them: their song and dance. No matter how much this country gets absolutely destroyed over and over again and colonized, nobody can take their song and dance. I'm like, wow. And so being with creatives where that thing is always, it's always like the ember has never been snuffed out, you know, and blowing on that and seeing that ignite, you know, in front of you, around you, inside of you. That's what I truly live for, because I know it's real. It's not a pipe dream. It's not a romantic dream. And there's nothing better. Getting to actually just constantly ignite and interact and collide, you know, with ideas that become like flesh and become touchable and engaged with, you know, that's everything for me. Yeah.
Totally. Well, and that's what is so magical about being a creative, is you are literally creating something from nothing. You're like pulling down these ideas from heaven and like making them into something that you can actually have on the earth, which I think is just the most magical thing ever. Creatives do get hung up on a lot of things, specifically that maybe people who don't identify as creatives don't understand and don't necessarily wrestle with. What are some of the things that you've noticed creative people really hold back because of, or get hung up on?
What qualifies them? So usually they'll go around mountains that they've already overcome because of nostalgia, right? We're dreamers. So it goes both ways. It goes forward into the future, and it also goes and romanticizes the past. So the hiccups or the places of stalling that I see are never with things that are ahead. They're just with things that are either, you know, they're half dead. And that's universal to all of us. It's beautiful because the thing to do is make space for that.
Yeah.
You actually make space for, oh, wait a second. Is this pace so rushed that there's no space in this creative process to grieve or to let something out, like to actually play, which means you can't be thinking about if the next move is right or wrong. And play is going to get dirty, you know, and now you're older and now you know better. Are you still going to play? You're smarter now, so you know all your shortcomings. Are you still going to play?
Yeah.
You know, that's what makes it so rich, when people decide to anyway. That's why we're all so in love with it, because it connects to something inside every human being. I don't think there's such thing as a creative. There's someone that is choosing to look at something and call it creative. But when you wake up, you're constantly creating just to walk to the bathroom. right? There's
Yeah,
so many
right.
things
Yeah.
that happened. So it's like, okay, what are we defining this as?
Yeah.
You know, and is that a tactic used by somebody other than us to segregate us from each other? It's like even in creatives, we have a class system, and I think it's BS. I think talent is beautiful, right? But it's a skill set, just like any other trade. You know, it's something you get to develop. If you have talent, awesome. Then it'll be, you know, there's certain parts of it that will be maybe easier or more enjoyable. But make no mistake, nobody can go just off raw talent. You know, like, so it's a leveling field. Everybody actually can engage in skill.
Yeah.
You know, and you get to do something because you enjoy it, and it's valid as soon as you create it.
Totally. Mm-hmm. Isn't
You
that
know what
the
I
truth?
mean?
Yeah, totally.
But the one to connect to is the
100%.
one making it, not the one who made it. It's a different thing that you tap into when you're no longer observing yourself, but you're actually like engaged with the
You're embodied.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
going to I have a choice. I can listen to the note, you know, that's happening, the note before it comes or the note after it's hit. And it's just like a click track. You can decide to play behind the beat, on the beat, or above the beat. And there's so many different ways of pace that you engage with. Yeah, it's incredibly multidimensional, and it really, to me, is the best way to get to know people.
Yeah. Oh my
You know,
gosh.
it's
Yes.
not like I'm a writer. It's like or I'm not a writer. It's like I don't. It doesn't matter. We're having a conversation. You're writing right now. If we switch to song, we could probably continue having a conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that's the thing that I'm so passionate about, letting people know. I'm like, if you want to, you can. That's
Amen.
it. That's it. Someone will come in right after and go, yeah, but to the level, no.
Right.
It's just, it doesn't matter. Good or bad is not our business. Something or nothing. That's it.
Yes. And I feel like, so I have a couple of things I want to add to what you said, but before I do, I feel like you probably hear the same insecurities from like level 1, never done anything creatives to like Grammy award winning creatives. Am I right?
Yeah, it's all the same.
It's all the same. Like so the people that are at level 1 that are like, oh, but I'm never going to be this like Grammy award winning. And you can tell them probably, I know those people and you are all the same.
Well, yeah, because you get to a certain point, and then it's like, can I still keep doing this? Do I still have it?
Totally.
Now I have to make more. Now
totally.
this is my Tuesday, right? Now I have to make da 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 da. It's like the thing just, it'll jump onto the next thing, but it's always the same struggle, which I think is so beautiful. It emphasizes how much community is needed. If I feel isolated and unique in my struggle, I'm going to perpetuate that isolation, because who would understand? And what would they think about me if they really knew me? You get into a group of people. That's why like AA is so powerful. You get into a group of people and all of a sudden you're like, oh crap. Wow, I have a lot of walls preserving this avatar of me.
Yeah.
You know, maybe that's why I'm so depressed, because I'm constantly faking it. You know, but like, it just takes a moment of confession and believing in that you actually belong, to make you realize like this life is so much easier actually than we're making it. You know, like so much easier. Suffering, it's not bad. It's suffering. That's why it's called suffering and not bad. Like let suffering happen. It produces something beautiful. Yeah, let it come through. Grief, like that's why I think we have a hard time resting, because there's all of these, like, you know, unresolved
things wanting to be felt.
Yep. Can you feel me now? Can you feel me
Yes.
now?
Oh,
Yeah.
100%.
I'll feel you as soon as I get this done 10 years later, you know?
Well, that's what so much of anxiety is those emotions, all of those feelings, all of those things, and all of that grief wanting to be felt and expressed. And we are so afraid of it. But honestly, sadness without fear is a really beautiful experience. And the grief, the emotion that comes up is actually, especially when you're in connection, is a really beautiful experience. I would agree. So there's a couple of things I wanted to say. You talked about with artists how they can get so hung up on like what was and where they're like where they've been and what just like kind of going around. And that's a major part of my story, was realizing I was like going around and around the pain, trying to figure out what was wrong with me. And I remember my trauma therapist told me one day, Courtney, you can't heal if you can't dream. And I remember like it's the foundation for everything that I do now, because I realized that I wasn't looking into the future and saying, okay, what's in between me and the thing that I want to create? I was just going around trying to figure out how to fix myself so that I could become this person that I thought I was supposed to be. And the becoming really comes from setting the vision and like knowing what you dream about. And then you can heal what's in the way of that. But trying to heal in order to fix yourself will never produce anything.
Right.
You can't heal if you can't play, or you can't heal if you can't dream. And then you talked about play, like playing and creativity, and how really it sounds like you believe everyone's a creative, which I believe that as well. From a nervous system standpoint, in order to engage in play, you have to feel deeply internally safe. Your nervous system has to be calm, has to have a sense of groundedness. I wouldn't say calm, I would say anchored. But you also have, they'll call it a little splash of fear. Mm-hmm. That's what play is. Mm-hmm. It's like mostly safe, but with a little bit of fear. You think about like games, like competition. You're like a little bit in fight or flight, but you're mostly in your like state of grounded, safe connection. Mm-hmm. And so connecting with other artists or getting support in your creative journey is a really beautiful way to be anchored to safety while still engaging in the thing that freaks you out a little bit.
Yes.
Which brings me to where I got to talk to you more was at something called the Fathering Artist Retreat, which is something that you do with other people, and we're kind of doing them more and like have dreams of doing these retreats more, but basically they're songwriting retreats. And I told you ahead of time that I wanted to talk to you about that because they're like one of the most fascinating things I've ever experienced. Really, truly. As a creative, one of the most fascinating things. And the way that it's set up is I've actually participated as I've been a participant, and then I've also been a support person as well, and then a performer. But
yeah, you've done every level.
Yeah. Yeah. And hopefully I'll do more and more. But
yes. Please come on.
There are a group of songwriters. It sounds funny. It sounds like a reality show. You put them all in a room. You put them into groups of 3 or 4, and they have to write a song in a day. And it's like the most intense, insane experiment I've ever been a part of and then ever witnessed. Because as a participant, I'll say, let's just even talk about the process of writing a song. On my own, I'll have a genius idea for a song. That's how it'll feel, It's a genius lyric in my car driving my kids around. And I'll like start this song, and then usually I'll lose interest in it and I'll never finish it. And then I have a whole book of half-finished songs. This is actually true. And or I'll finish it and I'm just like trying to just whatever. It just kind of like fizzles out. When you have to finish a song with other people who you've never met before, what it brings up is like the deepest insecurity that you probably didn't even know you had in there. So, and people come in hot. They're like ready to go, and they'll be crying by the 3rd day about what it actually brought up in them and what they learned and the breakthroughs that they had and like the crazy intense, experience that they went through. So, do you have anything to add to that as far as what the process is like?
Yeah, it's beautiful. We basically put them in a situation that no professional would prefer. And so it's harder than doing anything at the highest level. And we just watch everything come out as they go into fight or flight mode or freeze. And I just we put them in different rooms, and I bounce around and check in on all of them. And let the little mini nukes explode. Yeah. And just catch them at certain times. But basically like, hey, you have space like to express all of these these fears that have just been carterized or just, emulsified at the bottom of this pan. You've cleaned it 1,000 times. You've tried it 1,000 times. You got prayer. You read the book. You've had the diet. You've worked out. You've done all that kind of stuff. And still, I was like, dude, write a song with 4 strangers. It'll get all the gunk out.
Seriously. Yeah, it'll clean you out.
Yeah. So it's just beautiful.
It seems like there are themes too that I think are actually pretty universal in the creative process. Themes of people freezing, which is actually, there's a lot of science behind that. Your nervous system literally will not let you tap into flow because it feels too vulnerable.
Right.
So you've seen freeze, and you see people that are like really excited to get started and they like completely blank. Mm-hmm. You see ego.
Oh, yeah. It's amazing.
Precious.
Sweet ego.
Sweet ego.
Sweet
people that ego. Are like, I've already done this. I've got this. I've got the greatest idea. I'm taking it in this direction. Yeah.
And it's so important to like dignify them in their arrogance and dignify them when they're like a mess.
Yes, both.
Like so important that there's no told you so.
Yeah.
It's that kind of like, I know what's about to happen.
Yeah.
And however you're responding right now, I know it's coming from pain or coming from expectations put on you at such an early age that, blah.
Right.
And get to just watch these people go through these, like, it feels like a near-death experience, but they're completely safe.
Yeah.
That actual, like, your body doesn't know. If I come up and like, ha! And scare you, your body's not going to go like, was that real? Was that not? Is that a prank? Your body just reacts to it.
Totally. Yeah.
So there's so much that your body thinks has been life or death for so long.
Yes.
That has just been held on to because like, whoa, nope, let's wait to process this. Nope, I'm going to process this another time. And then you go to make a song and you have to be creative and you have to be yourself. And there's like 30 masks.
Yeah, right. Totally.
They're stacked up.
Yeah.
And just the beauty of taking them off is like, they're not landmines. Like they're not grenades.
Like you're going to be okay.
You're not going to die. But
totally.
but the avatar will, and maybe there's more than one, and thank you for holding on for those moments and bye-bye. And then just risking like, oh gosh, it's kind of crazy when you're used to like a repetition of whether it's trauma or healing or whatever. When you don't have that thing to deal with, it does feel like standing naked, like on top of a cliffside. You're like, I feel everything.
100%.
Whoa.
Yes. Well, that's why people in a healing process, when you are healing from anxiety or depression, will actually feel like it gets worse before it gets better.
Oh yeah.
Because all of a sudden, all the things that you've been using to keep it all back are gone.
Oh yeah, it's so much worse.
Totally. It really is. And I'll have friends that'll be like, I just started therapy and I like feel all this anxiety all of a sudden. And I'm like, yay, here we go. Like, this is great. It's not great. And I don't want to like dismiss, like it's an incredibly uncomfortable, sometimes really scary process for sure. But feeling everything, especially when you're in connection, especially when you have people that aren't going anywhere, that are going to be with you in it, is what heals us. And that's actually what this songwriting retreat kind of simulates and provides, really. And you'll notice people that get into these group situations that kind of unknowingly recreate their family dynamics. They'll just immediately shut down. They'll let other people talk for them. And that's, again, something else in the creative process that you see a lot. Like, people aren't realizing that they're going back into like child self victim mentality, or like nobody ever wants to listen to me. And it's that kind of like pouty thing. You'll see a lot of jealousy. One thing you guys talk about, and I've heard other songwriters talk about this too in group projects, is like honoring where the direction is going.
Yeah. Honor
like
the point.
Honor the point. Like where's the strongest idea? Where's it leading us? And if there's a lot of ego in the room, you're really detaching yourself from like from the song that's trying to get made.
Right.
And that disconnects you from the connection that's happening, which is so sad and so hard, but it's really important. to learn how to engage in that way. And it's really healing to know that you don't have to hide behind that ego. You don't have to be the person in charge with the very best idea in order to be included in something really beautiful and feel like you have a place in it.
Totally. Because you have to make that choice. Like, am I going to just like peep out of this thing, or am I going to shed the skin? You know, because I can't crawl back into it.
Totally.
If I engage with this, like I can't actually go back to that thing. It'll feel weird. And so, yeah, it's so ridiculously fun. It's so fun because it's never not, how do I say this? Nobody's ever not like overcome.
Totally. Nobody.
You know what I mean? It has nothing to do with talent, skill, age. I mean, none of it. Like, golly, we had this, like, probably the person that was the most prolific out of the 10, 11 years we've done it was a girl that she was blind. I'm not sure if she couldn't smell, or there was one other thing. And she engaged on a level that made all of us question, what's the point of us having eyes? What she was able to see because her imagination was unfettered. You know, it was like absolutely expansive. It reminded us all, you know, it's not this like diagonal thing. Like I'm watching from a balcony being like, ha, 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 ha. You know, like every single time is a whole new example for all of us of, man, we do need each other and we belong together and there is no them. Right. You know what I mean? Because you're not out. You're not out. You're not on the edge of the inside. Like,
oh, it's so true. There is no us in them.
It really is. I mean, we're very much strangers to ourselves, but the beauty of getting to know that there's someone that we're going to get to know forever. That thought, you know, of actually being in this body. It's such a beautiful, beautiful experience when the fear gets to be that feeling right before you jump off a cliff into, you know, an incredibly beautiful lake where you know you're not going to get hurt, but you're still a little. That experience with a community and with like-minded people, like-minded, I mean, in the way of, do you believe that it's possible? When you're around a lot of those people, there's a yes in you that your friends start articulating that you never had the words for, but somehow you can immediately go, yes. And then all of a sudden, I like it. Why? Because I like it. And it ends there. I like it because I like it. I love it because I love it. Now nobody can hold the gavel of validation anymore. So you can just make, you know, and you'll see, wow, some of this does bless people. Some of this does need to get out, you know, but I'm making every day. Right. And so it doesn't rise or fall by the praise of people. If this blesses somebody, awesome. But you know what? If I enjoyed it, it's done.
I had somebody that was talking about Instagram. She's like trying to grow a business on Instagram and help people. And she was like, the more that I post, the less people engage. And I was really upset with that. But then I realized, and it's probably like, whatever, the algorithm or whatever. But she's like, but I realized like, well, what's the solution? I say less, I post less, I make less things. Like, no, I'm just going to keep putting myself out there and just being like this light, and there's 8 billion people in the world. Like, people will find me, but it's just who I am. It's not the getting back. And I thought, gosh, that's so true. It's so good.
Yes.
Creative process. You do when you're beginning, I think maybe in an unhealed state in some ways, think that when I start creating and making things and singing, everyone's going to be like, there she is. She's so special. She's so magical. And we just hold that. So we don't make anything because we don't want to find out that that's not true. But then when we begin to get brave enough to like create things, we realize like that was never the goal, was to validate who you are. It was to express who you are. So it teaches you how to love yourself. And then when you can be in a community of people, then you really learn like you belong. You're in.
Yeah.
Either way.
Yeah.
I think this is like the very first question I asked you maybe when we were talking at Fathering Artists. I was like, what is the one thing that you think every creative needs to really know?
Yeah, that they belong. I mean, there's no such thing as nothing. There's everything. When you're ideating, you're catching. When you actually have a thought, did you make it up? No, you caught it. You catching yourself having a thought. You're not making yourself have a thought ever. right? You're usually choosing what to focus on, but you're not making thoughts. You're having thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
You make choices and you make decisions. Those are in your control, right? So setting yourself up, where am I going to be having thoughts? And what am I going to be doing with these thoughts as they come? And what state will I be in? Will I actually clean the house of my imagination so anyone can come in? Of course you can have muddy boots. Yeah, pain, you can come in. Betrayal, everybody can come in, but so can joy, and so can an inspiring thought, and everybody. And the ones that need to stay, they stay the longest. But nobody sleeps over. That is the day of a creative.
Oh, I like that. Totally.
So if we're looking at ourselves, it's just clearing out space to host the things that are happening to us. Then life is no longer happening like to you. It's happening for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you're not the victim anymore, right? And then you can make, So I don't know. That's a long way to say it, but that would be yes, it's so massively broad.
No, it's so good. Well, you said, so you've talked about like your belongingness, knowing every creative needs to know that they belong, that their creativity has a place in this world, and they are a beloved child. I've heard you say that too.
Yeah.
Like inside the insecure creative is like a scared little kid.
Totally. I mean, I have to engage with that every time. That's the little bit of fear.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, pain is an indicator for sure, but fear is usually like a signpost. It's like, you're right where you should be. It's right here.
Right. Yes. Oh yeah.
100%. It's like everything is pointing to our actual like well-being, our wholeness, our wholeheartedness, all of these things. So basically, if you just remove shame, everything is working for you, So the whole day is just like, wow, and whatever you make from that, man, it's actually enjoyable. That's what I've noticed. Like the tyranny of all this stuff is the fact that you can make beautiful stuff and not enjoy it. Like that's the worst place to be in. It's just like being in a crowd of people and feeling more alone than by yourself. Like you can actually make music that blows people away, that helps them, that heals, that does so many incredible things and not enjoy the whole journey.
I'm sure you know a lot of people like that.
I am one of them. I don't even speak from, I don't speak from necessarily ideas as I speak from my own experience, and then the privilege of getting to hear so many people's stories. Yeah, and hearing, I'm a musician, so I always focus on patterns. And something happens over and over again.
You can't unsee it. Yeah. This is everybody. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, also as creatives, we're constantly trying to organize chaos. So any place where I see that, I'm always trying to choreograph that into a song or make that into because that's how I make life make sense. If I change the pace of how I receive the information or how I experience it, then it can be something sustainable I can remember. Or something we imagine. I had a friend of mine write a song about like an 80-year-old dude, and it made me weep. And I'm like, how did you do that? Like you're 20-something. He goes, I just went there in my head. Everything I want to tell my son who I don't even have yet. And so he put himself there. I'm like, time isn't a thing. All this stuff is just such an illusion in the way that we place it in a hierarchy of importance when it comes to making in general. Time isn't really important.
Yeah.
All the none of this stuff is important. What you can do in 1 hour of no resistance is greater than what you can do in 10 years of, constant mitigated risk.
Oh, it's absolutely so true. I was telling you before, it's a place to return to every day. And it's a place I was just this morning, like feeling so frantic about so many different things going on. And I was just sat down and like stared at a tree. And I was like, oh. And that's what nervous system trauma healing science will say, is that when you feel deeply safe, there is a sense of timelessness.
Yeah.
And deeply safe is how the human being can feel connected to God, connected to self. This sense of timelessness. And in that sense of timelessness, there is like an unending flow of creativity for you to engage with.
Right. That's what I mean by there's not nothing. It's there that everything.
Yeah.
is
Okay.
always
Yeah.
happening.
It's all there. It's so true.
It's all there.
So true.
Everything you could ever imagine or dream or hope for, and then beyond all of your wildest imaginations.
I hear you. Just to anyone listening, I feel like I want to highlight this one thing. These things, we talk about coming back to a place of safety, to a place of timelessness. And JP said it so well. You get the choice of which thoughts to engage with. You get the choice of, what to do and what to build. But those ideas, those inspiration ideas, they're not, you don't have to pull it up from inside of you like by yourself. You're not like trying to figure out where this inspiration comes from. It comes to a body, to a human that's connected, that feels safe, that feels that is trusting in their belovedness and belongingness.
Yes.
JP, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks
I feel
for
like
having me,
we
Courtney.
really could talk for hours and hours and geek out, and no one would know what we were talking about.
Yes.
All right, everyone. Where can people find you? Because you are a creative coach yourself. You're a songwriting coach. You're based in Nashville, correct?
Yes.
And you work with songwriters of all levels to help them tell a story. Where can people find you?
Yes. You can find me online at my website at jpgentile.com. You can also find me at fatheringartist.com. And we have a retreat coming up November 9th, 10th, and 11th, I think, in Lakehead, California. And we'll have some stuff posted up probably by Christmas for next year's retreats and where they'll be at.
Perfect. Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I hope you guys have all enjoyed this and that you have a beautiful day. Bye.
Bye.